bucket. Beautiful.
Caitlin Clark just took a vicious, flagrant hit on national television, forced to limp off the hardwood, while the entire basketball world collectively held its breath, and the people out there calling her a defensive liability or saying she only knows how to shoot free throws are completely missing the massive glaring point of what is actually happening in Indiana right now. Everyone is sitting around talking about how the Indiana Fever just got completely dismantled by the Dallas Wings with a final score of 95-80, but absolutely nobody in the mainstream sports media wants to talk about the real underlying reason behind this total collapse. They want to point fingers at rookie mistakes or adjust the narrative to fit their preconceived notions. But that is not what the tape shows. If you stay with me until the very end of this deep dive, you are going to find out exactly why the most confusing substitution decision of the entire game shattered the team's momentum. The one shocking statistical nightmare going on under the basket that proves just how entirely alone Caitlin Clark really is on that court. And the real reason why what is happening to her right now matters so much more for the future of women's sports than just a single meaningless preseason game. It is bigger than basketball, guys, and it is time we ripped the Band-Aid off and looked at the truth. Just a quick note before we really get into the weeds here. Everything you are about to hear is based on publicly available game data, verified box scores, and our own intensive film room analysis of the game tape. We are not affiliated with Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, or the league itself. We are not here to blindly take sides or push an agenda. We are just here to break down what the numbers and the game film are actually screaming at us. All opinions expressed are just our honest, unfiltered basketball analysis, and we respect every single player out there putting their body on the line. But when the system fails, we have to call it out. Let us set the scene and rewind to the opening tip-off, because the way this game started makes the final result even more agonizing to swallow. Everything began looking like an absolute dream for Indiana fans. The Fever came out swinging, they were pushing the pace, and they actually held the lead at the end of the first quarter. And at the absolute center of that beautiful chaos was number 22. Caitlin Clark was nothing short of electric, looking completely dialed in and sharp, putting up an incredible 14 points on 4 of 5 shooting from the field in just the first quarter alone. She was not just settling for the long ball either. She was actively diagnosing the defense, reading the floor like a seasoned veteran, and manipulating the Dallas Wings' defensive schemes with a level of sophistication that you simply do not expect from someone so early in their professional journey. She was looking at the pick and roll, anticipating the hedge, waiting for the defender to commit, and then making the exact right decision. She looked like she was finally finding her rhythm, getting her shot back, and telling the entire league that she is the face of this franchise for a reason. You could feel the energy radiating through the screen. That familiar magic that made her a household name in college was finally translating onto the professional hardwood. But then, the illusion shattered, and we have to talk about the exact moment the wheels completely fell off the wagon. It was the second quarter, right around the 6-minute and 30-second mark, and head coach Stephanie White made a decision that left thousands of fans staring at their televisions in pure disbelief. With the offense humming and Clark serving as the absolute engine of every positive play, the coach decided to call for a substitution and pull Caitlin Clark out of the game entirely. You have your generational playmaker, the one person who is successfully navigating a tough defense, and you sit her down. What happened next was not just a momentum shift, it was an absolute unmitigated disaster for the Indiana Fever. The very second the ball was no longer in Clark's hands, the entire offensive system dissolved into absolute chaos. They looked completely lost, devoid of any structural integrity or offensive sets. Dallas immediately capitalized on this confusion, going on a blistering 13-2 scoring run. The Fever went from looking like a cohesive unit to a team that looked like they had
little
never
drive to the
practiced
bucket.
together a
Beautiful.
day in their lives. +2. If you look at the reaction from the fans watching this unfold live, the frustration was palpable and entirely justified. The comment sections were burning up, with people pointing out that taking the ball out of Caitlin's hands caused everything to fall apart immediately. Fans were screaming about the total lack of adjustments and the confusing rotation choices. One fan perfectly captured the sentiment, noting that the coach took her out at the 6-minute and 30-second mark, and the viewer just switched the channel and never came back. It felt like a self-inflicted wound, a completely unforced error by a coaching staff that seemed disconnected from the actual flow and rhythm of the game playing out right in front of them. It makes you wonder what the actual game plan was, because if the plan was to rest your star while watching the opposing team run absolute track meets up and down the floor, then it was executed flawlessly. But the substitution was only the catalyst. The underlying disease plaguing this team was exposed in the most brutal way possible when you look at what the rest of the roster was doing, or rather what they were completely failing to do. +1. Let us transition and talk about the giant glaring hole in the middle of the floor, because the lack of physical presence and fundamental basketball execution from the supporting cast was genuinely hard to watch. With key players like Aaliyah Boston and Lexi Hull sitting this one out, the Fever's lack of size and rebounding capability was exposed for the entire world to see. They were completely and utterly bullied in the paint. Dallas absolutely dominated the glass out-rebounding Indiana by a staggering margin of 45-26. You cannot win basketball games at any level, let alone in the professional ranks, when you are giving up second and third chance opportunities on nearly every single defensive
little drive to the
possession.
bucket. Beautiful.
Fans were brutally honest in their assessments, pointing out that the team looked incredibly small and that players were standing around flat-footed, watching Dallas grab rebounds without even attempting to jump or hustle. It was a lack of effort and a lack of sheer physical willpower that forces a team into submission. +1. But it was not just the rebounding that was offensive to the eyes, it was the actual offensive execution from the veterans and the role players. Damiris Dantas, playing the center position, somehow managed to shoot 0 for 8 from behind the three-point line. Let that sink in for a moment. Your center is hovering around the perimeter, launching brick after brick, completely abandoning any interior presence while the team is getting slaughtered on the boards. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell, a player carrying massive expectations and a massive contract, finished the night with 10 points, shooting a highly inefficient 4 for 12 from the field. Instead of facilitating or recognizing when her shot was off, she fell into the trap of isolation, basketball holding onto the ball too long, forcing heavily contested shots and stopping the flow of the offense dead in its tracks. And then you have Sophie Cunningham, who was basically a ghost out there, struggling to even get a touch because her teammates seemingly refused to swing the ball her way when she was open. The chemistry was non-existent. When Caitlin would thread the needle with a brilliant high IQ pass, her teammates were fumbling it, dropping the ball, or missing wide-open, uncontested layups. It was described perfectly by observers who felt like the teammates were treating the basketball like it was radioactive playing dodgeball instead of looking to score. +4. This absolute vacuum of support forced Caitlin Clark to completely alter her playing style just to keep the team breathing. She realized very quickly that standing on the perimeter and waiting for a play to develop was a death sentence with this current lineup. So what did she do? She put her head down and she attacked. She drove into the teeth of the defense, sacrificing her own body, absorbing contact, and forcing the officials to finally blow the whistle. And for once, the referees actually heard it. Clark got to the charity stripe time and time again, ending up with 11 points solely from the free throw line, shooting 11 of 13. That is a testament to her sheer willpower. She finished the night with 21 points, shooting 4 of 6 from the field, and added 4 assists and 2 rebounds. But let us be painfully honest here, those 4 assists could have easily been 10 or 12 if her teammates could finish a basic basketball play. She was orchestrating offense out of thin air, surrounded by a team that looked completely disjointed and lost. She was fighting a war on multiple fronts against the Dallas defense, against her own team's incompetence, and against a coaching strategy that seemed actively detrimental to her success. +4. And all of that incredible grinding effort almost ended in absolute tragedy in the third quarter. This brings us to the most dramatic, heart-stopping moment of the entire night, a moment that makes you seriously question the duty of care this league has for its marquee players. Caitlin Clark sets up for a three-point shot, elevates, releases the ball, and is met with a completely reckless, dangerous closeout by the defender. The contact is hard, it is unnecessary, and it results in a flagrant foul being called on the floor. But the whistle does not erase the impact. Clark goes down, and when she gets up, she is visibly limping. She has to leave the floor, put her jacket on, and stand by the bench, reduced to a spectator, while dealing with yet another lower leg issue. +3. If you are an Indiana Fever fan, your heart instantly drops into your stomach when you see that. Because we have seen this movie before and we know how it ends. We remember the ghosts of seasons past, players dealing with lower leg injuries that were mishandled, mysteriously disappearing from the rotation, listed as day-to-day for weeks on end. The panic in the fan base is real and it is justified. They are terrified that the medical staff and the coaching staff are going to mismanage their franchise savior. You are watching the single most important asset in women's basketball getting battered and bruised, fighting for every single inch of the floor, only to be taken out by a reckless play that the officials need to start cracking down on immediately. The physical toll she is taking is immense. And you have to ask yourself, where are her teammates coming to her defense? Where is the enforcer? Where is the coach demanding better protection from the referees? It felt incredibly isolating watching her take that hit and then have to walk it off alone. To truly understand how frustrating this is, you have to compare Clark's situation to what was happening on the exact same floor with the Dallas Wings. You have to look at Paige Bueckers. Paige is an incredibly talented player, a phenomenal basketball mind, and she had a fantastic game. She finished with 20 points shooting efficiently and ended the night with a plus-minus rating of +15. But here is the crucial, undeniable difference. Paige Bueckers did not have to shoot a single free throw to get her 20 points. Why? Because she operates within an offensive system that actually functions. She has teammates who set solid legal screens. She has bigs who crash the glass and demand attention in the post. She has wings who space the floor and knock down open shots. She is allowed to play basketball with a sense of flow and rhythm. +2. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, had to fight through double teams, hard hedges, physical coverage, and total offensive stagnation to scrape together her 21 points, and she was rewarded with a -7 rating for her heroic efforts. It is the ultimate paradox in team sports. You can be the brightest star in the building, but if the universe around you is collapsing into a black hole, your light is going to get swallowed up. The fans see this glaring disparity. They see that Dallas had a cohesive game plan, moving the ball, finding the open player, and playing with a level of intensity that the Fever simply could not match. They see Paige Bueckers thriving in a healthy environment, while Caitlin Clark is essentially carrying a boulder up a mountain every single time she crosses half court. It is not a fair fight, and it is not a true reflection of her individual talent. +1. When you dive into the psychology of the fans reacting to this game, it is a fascinating and chaotic mix of emotions. You have the protective group, the die-hard fans who are absolutely furious about the physical abuse Clark is taking and the lack of calls she normally gets, though they were slightly relieved. The whistle blew on the flagrant. You have the analytical fans pulling their hair out over Stephanie White's defensive schemes, or lack thereof, wondering how a coach reputed for defense can allow the paint to be a wide-open runway for the opposing team. They are pointing out the absurd rotation choices, leaving the star player on the bench while the game slips away. And then you have the skeptics, the ones who look at the -7 plus-minus rating and try to use it to validate their narrative that Clark is overhyped completely, ignoring the context of the 45-26 rebounding deficit and the 0 for 8 shooting from her center. The community is fractured, highly emotional and looking for answers that the organization is currently failing to provide. But beyond all the statistics, the controversial coaching decisions, the flagrant fouls, and the chaotic comment sections, there is a profound life lesson buried in the rubble of this terrible loss. Caitlin Clark's performance in the face of absolute systemic failure teaches us something that we can all apply to our own lives, our own careers, and our own struggles. When you step into a new environment carrying the weight of massive expectations, things are rarely going to be perfect. You are going to encounter systems that are broken. You are going to work with people who drop the ball, who do not understand the vision, who miss the easy layups of life. You are going to face people who want to see you fail, who will throw cheap shots your way just to knock you off your pedestal. When you find yourself in that situation, when the system around you is actively dragging you down, what do? Do you point fingers? Do you give up? Do you let the frustration consume you? No. You do exactly what Caitlin Clark did when the three-point shot wasn't falling and her teammates were playing dodgeball. You change your approach. You put your head down, you drive into the paint, you take the hits, and you force the issue. You adapt. You focus on the things you can control: your effort, your aggression, your willingness to step up to the free throw line and knock down 11 of 13 shots while the world is watching. Pressure does not create champions, it reveals them. How you respond when everything is falling apart around you is the true measure of your character. Clark did not silence her critics by complaining about the system. She silenced them by refusing to quit, by bleeding for every single point, and by proving that even on her darkest, most isolated night, she is still the hardest working person in the room. If Caitlin Clark has ever given you a moment that made you jump off your couch, a moment that made you believe in the magic of sports, I need you to drop a basketball emoji in the comments right now. Let us show her, and let us show the algorithm how many people are truly riding with her through the growing pains of this season. And I really want to hear your unfiltered thoughts on this absolute mess. Do you think Caitlin Clark is being utilized correctly by Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever coaching staff? Was taking her out in the second quarter the worst coaching decision of the preseason? Or is there some master plan that we are all just too blind to see? Do you think the league is doing enough to protect her from these flagrant, reckless closeouts? Drop your honest, brutally truthful takes down below. I read every single one of them, and on this channel, we never delete opinions just because they go against the grain. We thrive on the debate. Every single comment, every single like helps this video reach more genuine basketball fans who deserve to hear the whole truth, the deep dive analysis, and not just the clickbait headlines designed to tear players down. Now you know the real complex, frustrating story of what is actually happening with Caitlin Clark and the systemic failures of the Indiana Fever right now. But if you think this situation is tense, wait until you hear the behind-the-scenes reality of what another major star in this league had to endure just to get a modicum of respect. It makes this controversy look like a simple misunderstanding. I broke down that entire untold story in another deep dive, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. It is right there on your screen. Click that video, keep the basketball conversation going, and I will see you over there in just a few seconds. If Caitlin Clark has ever given you a moment that made you jump off your couch, a moment that made you believe in the magic of sports, I need you to drop a basketball emoji in the comments right now. Let us show her, and let us show the algorithm how many people are truly riding with her through the growing pains of this season. And I really want to hear your unfiltered thoughts on this absolute mess. Do you think Caitlin Clark is being utilized correctly by Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever coaching staff? Was taking her out in the second quarter the worst coaching decision of the preseason? Or is there some master plan that we are all just too blind to see? Do you think the league is doing enough to protect her from these flagrant, reckless closeouts? Drop your honest, brutally truthful takes down below. I read every single one of them, and on this channel, we never delete opinions just because they go against the grain. We thrive on the debate. Every single comment. Every single like helps this video reach more genuine basketball fans who deserve to hear the whole truth. The deep dive analysis, and not just the clickbait headlines designed to tear players down. Now you know the real complex, frustrating story of what is actually happening with Caitlin Clark and the systemic failures of the Indiana Fever right now. But if you think this situation is tense, wait until you hear the behind-the-scenes reality of what another major star in this league had to endure just to get a modicum of respect. It makes this controversy look like a simple misunderstanding. I broke down that entire untold story in another deep dive, and trust me, you do not want to miss it. It is right there on your screen. Click that video, keep the basketball conversation going, and I will see you over there in just a few seconds.